Hello everyone, and in this tutorial we're going to go through copy to points and just some of the basic attributes that are available that you can use to modify the objects that you copy onto those points and then end up creating like a simple effect like this. Okay, so that's pretty much it. Okay, so let's get started, right? So what I want to do is this is supposed to be like a Houdini basics tutorial, even though I think it will get a little advanced. But okay, nothing in Houdini is relatively basic. Okay, so I'm just going to take this box, and the idea is just to cover like all the various attributes that you have access to when you are using copy to points. Okay, so I'm just going to take a simple grid and let's copy this stuff on this grid. So we'll just take a copy to points, and that's pretty much it. Okay, I'll just increase the size for now. So what I have here is I just have a box and I've given it like a match to size. So it is it's actually in the Z direction because the default up in Houdini is Z. So I've just taken the match size and put it like minimum in Z. So if it is at none, then you'll see like the grid is in the middle over there. So in this, I just set it to like min, and that's what it does. You don't need to modify anything else. The other two can remain at none and it will be fine. Okay, so the first thing I can do is I can add some normals to this. So I can just take a normal and we can set it to points. So we have some normals. That doesn't really matter right now, but we will use it later. Okay, like you can do some basic things like if I modify these normals, it will modify the directions of these. So if I take something like an attributed just vector and drop it in, and I set this to n, and I set this to, let's just say random, okay, and that's what it will do. So if I do like min max and I make it like -1 +1, see, so that is how. So if you modify the normals, you can modify the direction of your objects, but I don't want to use this. There's another way to do it. Okay, so the basic attributes that you get access to are, you have Pscale, which is uniform scale, and then you have scale, which is a vector. So this is a float because it's just one value, it will control uniform scale. This is a vector, so you can actually do like, if I do something like 1, 3, 1, then what you're doing is you're getting like x axis is 1 and y axis is 3, and this is 1. So you can sort of modify it that way. Mask is not a standard attribute, but we can use masking to control how much area should get affected. And then if you want to control rotation, you get actually 3 different things. You get normals, you get orient, which is a quaternion, and then you also get this rotation attribute, which is also a quaternion. So rotation sort of applies on top of everything else. So we're going to use rotation to control the rotation of your copies. So let's take a look at Pscale first. So you can do this in a whole bunch of ways. I just like using the float, the attributed just float node. The attributed adjust nodes are pretty good, right? If you type in like adjust, you'll get a whole bunch of them, and they allow you to, like, they give you access to a lot of things ready-made, so you don't have to go into Wrangle and make things. You can just do it through this. So I can just drop it in here, and it default sets to Pscale. It's like the attribute name, and it's by default the value is at 0. So that's why everything just disappeared. So you can sort of like control the scaling. And then you can do things like, if I'll just do set always, and I'll set it to, let's say, noise, right? So then you get this, and I can adjust this a little bit. Let's also adjust, like, let's get a few more, and then I can come in here, and let's say if I turn on, so you have like a bunch of things here. You can sort of adjust, the ramp of it if you want. You also have different types, so we can set it to whirly, and then let's say if I do this, and you have fractal, so I can sort of like lower the fractal. Let's try to reverse this. Just reverse the curve, and let's do that. Let's increase this. and we can just lower the roughness. See, there you go. So you get like, cellular noise like that. Okay. And then we can do animate noise and play it, and you get this, so this stuff is pretty easy. What you can also do is you can actually rather than, okay, now a smarter way to do this is, let's say if you want the same noise pattern to affect like a whole range of things, like maybe I wanted to affect the scaling and the color, then the best thing is you generate like a custom attribute that has the noise, and then you just copy it to the other things that you want. So like what I can do is, here I'm just going to rename this to noise. So now it's not going to affect Pscale. Okay, but now what I can do on top of this is, if I take another attribute, just float, and this is Pscale, and what I can do is I'll do set always, and I'll change the pattern to remap attribute, and down here I can type in noise. So you get the same result, but now it's actually running in from here. So let me just color this. So now what I can also do is, let's say if I take in a color node and I drop this in there, and I set this to ramp from attribute, and I also call this noise. See, so now let me just set it to something. I'll do like two-tone. Yeah, there you go. So let's also I'll just spread it out a bit. The advantage is, like, if I make any change here, it affects everything, right? So if I add in more, fractal noise to that, or if I adjust the scaling, or I make any kind of a change here. See, there you go. I think that looks better. Yeah. Or if you adjust like, these values in any which way. So whatever changes you make there, like if I change it to, let's say, Wordly. Okay, like, so that was Wordly F1 and this is F2 F1, and if I change, I get this. I can make it more, like if we make it a little more dense, let's say if I make it like 50 by 50, there you go. See, so that looks nice. And I can take this box and maybe make it slightly smaller. So you can do stuff like this. So it becomes much more easier because everything is just running from one place. So I don't have to go into like multiple nodes and make changes. Okay, so this is we can adjust Pscale. Okay, so now let's modify the scale attribute, right? So I can just take a wrangle for that, okay, because it'll be easier through a wrangle. Okay, so what I can do is I can just do like v at scale is equal to, and we'll do a set. Okay, so we want to set, like, let's do like 1, 1, 4. So z is the up axis. So if I do this, see, so now everything becomes taller. So what I want to do is I want to put the noise in there, right? So let's bypass the Pscale and let's just put in this over here. So we'll do like at noise and we get this. See, so now you're like, modifying the z axis. Everything else is the same. Or if you also bring in this, what I can do is, let's say if I want to make it slightly more, involved, let's do a float z. Okay, so the difference is, if when you do an at, that makes an attribute, like that will be actually stored on geometry. If you just want to create like a temporary value that you want to use within this code, you just type in float, whatever, or vector, whatever. So that just creates a temporary value that will be used within just this code. So because the thing with attributes you need to remember is that the more attributes you have, the more memory it eats up when you're rendering it or even while processing. So usually you want to keep your attributes to like a minimal, or at least like as many as you want. So I'll do a fit 01. So we're just going to like, adjust the range of it. And I'll do at noise. Let's do 0, 5. Okay, so we'll get like a big range out of it. And then here I can just type in Z. And you'll get this. So now so this allows me to sort of just, adjust it a bit more. I'll take this and maybe adjust it a bit. Yeah. Okay. See, so there you go. So you have like, nice little, effect that you're getting. Yeah, okay. Let's change it to this. I think this looks nice. Okay, now along with this, if we also want to modify this with some kind of a mask, like I want like a sphere to control, the area. So what I can do is I can take a sphere And I want this sphere to sort of define like, okay, this is the area within which I want it to affect. So I can just take this and I can type in mask from geometry and plug that in. And if you press enter, you'll be able to see it. So I can just take this and make it slightly bigger. And now what I can do is, let's do one thing. Let's take this noise and let's rename this. We'll rename this to mask. But instead of set always, I'll do multiply. So what's happening is that it's going to multiply this noise with the existing. So if we just take a look at it, see, so you're now multiplying that in here, and the only thing we need to do is just come into these guys and make those changes, right? So I'll have to come in here, call this mask, and this one will also be mask. I should have just called it mask from the beginning, and here also we do mask. And then if we come down and turn off mask, yeah, there you go, see. So now what's happening is we're getting that, but it's now limited to an area. So if I just take this sphere and I move it around, see, and also the size of it adjusts, affects the whole thing. You know, so the larger the sphere is, the more it will affect it. But we can sort of like adjust this, see. So this gives me like, you know, how much area, and you can have different shapes. So if you want, you can take like a tube or a torus or, you know, whatever, and it will just, you know, affect it that way. So if I just bring this out here and I can animate it. So if I just do like alt click and come here and move it, so we get this. Yeah, so that looks nice, you know. And I can come in here, let's come to this guy and make it like, maybe, I think something taller would be nice. So let's make it like 5. Yeah. And the Pscale, I just want to control it. Yeah, make the box smaller. Okay, I think this is fine. Okay, so this is good. Now let's take a look at the last thing, which is rotation. Okay, so the way rotation works is in Houdini is always complicated. Okay, like you can do a few things, like we can use something like the scatter and align node, but that doesn't, mixing that with mask is complicated. Okay, so we'll just do a custom thing. Okay, so what I'm going to do is, let's say for now, I just want to rotate these on their axis. Okay, so just in Z axis, I want them to rotate. So we have the normals, which is good. And let's just give it like a mountain node just to distort it like a little bit. So we'll get, yeah, there you go. See, so they're all facing in the normal direction, which is what we want. Okay, and I'll just, you know, like increase the element size. Yeah, and I will lower the fractal. So I just want these to sort of like, you know, randomly rotate in their particular axis. So the simplest way to do this is through a point warp. Okay, so I'm going to take a point warp. Yeah, this is not, I was going to call this Houdini basics as a tutorial, and then I realized, no, this is not Houdini basics, but I'll just call it ROT. And it's actually not complicated in terms of how many nodes we require, but I'm just like, okay, no, I'll just get rid of this. Okay, so what I'll do is, you need to do a bind export that will allow me to set up the attributes. The attribute is called ROT, and it is a quaternion, so it will be 4 floats, which is a quaternion. Okay, and what you can do is, if you just type in quaternion, you get something very simple. It has an axis and an angle, you know, and I can just plug this in, and then if I spin this, you can sort of like, you know, rotate this. So depending on which axis you want to rotate it, we can rotate this. See, so this is Y axis and our up is Z. So that is what we want, but it doesn't really work because you don't know which, it needs a proper direction. So the direction can simply be our normals, right? So I can just take this and plug that into axis. And now if I spin it, see, so it's all spinning, you know, along the normals, which is great. But let's say if you want to like randomize it a bit. So what I can do is, so the 2 things to remember is, or actually the one thing, this value is not degrees. Okay, this is going in radians. So from what I know of radians, because I was watching a video last night about this, is 1 is 57 degrees. So 0 radians is 0 degrees, or 0 degrees is 0 radians, and 57 degrees is 1 radian. So it's very difficult to control this. But if you want to make your life simpler, so if I can just take a constant node, okay, and let's say this is 45 degrees, and I want 45 degrees to go into this. So you just type in degrees to radians, and you just, plug that in, and we're good. So now you are dealing with actual degrees. Okay, so what do we want to do, right? So let's say along with this, if I want to multiply it with the mask that we had, so I can just type in bind, and this will be mask, and I just put in a multiply in here. So I put in a multiply there and multiply it with this, multiply it here, and there you go. So now what's happening is, see, so all of these are straight, and then as you come in here, they start to rotate. Now let's say if you want to do like random rotation, then what I can do is I can randomize the point number and then feed that in here. Okay, so I can just take a random. So we'll just take a random BRJ. There are like different, I don't know what it is. So you have like 3 of them. Anyway, so we'll just take the PT num, which is the point number, plug it into seed. And then let's say I want to set, so this will generate a value from 0 to 1. Okay, let's say we want to set it between minus 45 and plus 45, right? So I'll just take a fit range, plug this into value, and let's say the value you want to go from is minus 45 to plus 45, and we can plug that in. And there you go. See, so now you have random rotation. So if I plug this in, okay, and I'll just take this Pscale, maybe make it slightly bigger. Okay, and this can be 0.3, so they're not like completely flat. And so what we'll get is, see, so as they come in, they sort of spin and they move out. But let's say if you wanted to, like rotate in like random directions, so we can do something else. Okay, so this is the final thing that we're going to do. Okay, so what we can do is I can just take a vector. So I'll do attribute just vector, and we'll just create like a custom vector value. So I'll just call it rotate. So rotate is nothing, it's just a value that we are generating. You can come in here and I can visualize rotate. I'm going to set this to, I'll do set always, set it to noise, and let's increase the scale a little bit. And I'm going to set this to min max, and I'll do minus 45 and plus 45. So we'll get something like this. And I can also switch on animate. So we'll get, this, which is great. Now we need to convert this to the rotation. So what I'll do is I just come in here. Yeah, so it's just looking like this because I'm visualizing the rotate value. So I can just turn that off. Okay. So what I do is I'll come in here, and you need a slightly, we just need to take in that vector value and convert it to a quaternion, right? So I just take a bind. This is a vector. You can do vector, or you can do 3 floats vector. I don't know what difference it makes. What does it make? I don't know, whatever. Anyways, doesn't matter. And this will be rotate. Yeah. And then firstly, this is minus 45 to plus 45. So we need to convert it to radians. So we'll do Control C, Control V. This comes in there. So it's degrees to radians. So we just type in vector to quaternion, and you get that. Okay. And then this just goes into the bind, and what you'll get is this. So now everything is rotating. See, you can see like everything is rotating, but now you're getting like this really weird rotation, which is nice. Okay, so now the only thing we need to do is we need to multiply it with the mask. So I just type in a multiply. I'll put it in here, and I just take the mask value and drop it in there, and there you go. And that is pretty much it. So we get, like everything that we want. Okay, so if I disable this mask, and the whole thing comes in there, it'll be like this. We should probably slow it down. So I can just come into this rotation and, sorry, this one, and maybe like slow down the pulse a little. Yeah. and we can try to modify this as well. So this, I'll just change it back to this one. Yeah. And we can, so because this is now externally available to us, I can maybe make it like -10 and +10. Yeah, there you go. And the scale, yeah, let's just call this scale. This can be 2. Okay, see, so we get like, something nice. So I can just bring this back. Yeah. Oh, that looks nice. And you can change this to anything, right? So if I just take a sphere and I'll make it big enough, I'll set this to polygon, give it about 30 and plug this in there. Yeah, hold on. Where is it going from? Let's just delete this. Let's do like delete channel. Yeah, I think, okay, let's make the sphere a lot bigger. Yeah, and adjust the noise. Yeah, okay, there you go. You're getting something. Yeah, just adjust the values again because I think that was a little too this thing. Yeah, there you go. Okay. And what I can do as a final thing is just to recreate what I had done is I can just take a circle and what is the size of this? Yeah, so just make it big enough there, and I'll just take a path deform. The sphere goes in here and that goes in there, and we will set up, actually you don't need this, but we'll set up rigidity, and I'll come into the curve position and I'll set it to at time and plug that into the mask. And so what that does is it gives us this. Okay, that's too fast. So I can just come in here and do like divided by 3. Yeah, and you can just adjust that. See. Oh, there you go. That looks nice. So yeah, so this is how you can, do fancy little stuff with this. Yeah, so hopefully this helps you understand, like all the various attributes that are available to you when you are copying objects. And this is also applicable to like instancing and stuff. It's not just for like, random motion graphic stuff like this. But just even if you're doing instancing, you can use any of this stuff. So I hope this helps you understand like all the various attributes that are available and you can probably use them somewhere. Yeah, so there you go. That's pretty much it.